God will take care of it.
Yeah.
God will take care of it in His own way.
Do you go to church much, do you?
The last time I went to mass was maybe my nephew's christening last year. I used to go to mass when I was younger a lot more,
Sure,
but
sure.
you know what it's like. I'm not going to lie to you, Father. You know what I mean?
I know.
Every night I still count my blessings. When I wake up in the morning, still count my blessings. Still count all the things I'm grateful for. And
Good lad.
Do you get much younger ones coming into the chapel now, do you? Or just older crowd?
It depends where you go. There are some younger ones coming back. But, for example, I was in Lourdes last month. The amount of young people was amazing. They've done your
Good
heart
to see,
good.
yeah.
Brilliant, you know. Young people there helping the sick, you know, pushing wheelchairs and looking after the sick when they're there. You know, it's really great to see it. And somebody was telling me they were in Rome there recently. And again, thousands and thousands of young people, you know, teenagers.
Have you ever been to Rome yourself?
A couple of times, yeah.
Rome's is that a Catholic place? Is that where the Pope's from? No.
Yeah,
Vatican City
the
or something?
Vatican's there. Yeah, the Pope's there.
Have you met the Pope?
Yes.
You have?
I met him in 2018 when he came to Ireland. I was one of the group of victims that was picked to meet with him. And we met him in Dublin. We had 2 hours with him. And he listened to our stories, you know. It was incredible. Like, it was all surreal almost, you know. Like, we were all in this room in a circle. There was about 7 or 8 of us, I think. And the next minute, there's the Pope standing there, you know. And
Unbelievable, like.
This might sound stupid. Does the Pope speak English?
No, he hasn't much English. He's Spanish speaking. He's from Argentina, and he speaks Italian fluently. But he had an interpreter with him, a young priest who translated what we were saying and translated what he was saying. You know.
Out of everyone in the whole world, is that who you would want to meet first? Out of every celebrity, Father, out of everyone, no. Who would be your hero you would love to meet?
Don't know, to be honest.
Nah, no favorite singers.
Any inspirations growing up?
The parish priest when I was a kid.
Yeah,
he was a great priest. I wanted to be a priest from when I was no age. When I was capable of wanting to be anything and knew it was going to grow up to be something, I wanted to be a priest. And the priests that I knew as a kid were the real deal. Like, my unfortunate experiences would come later. But as a kid, there was only one dodgy priest that I remember. He gave me the creeps a bit. He was an American accent. He was only visiting our parish in White Abbey. But I was about 14 at the time, and he was giving me these big hugs and holding me sort of saying, "Hi, you're so cute," and all this, and freaked me out.
How old were you?
I was about 14.
14 years old?
Yeah, and that was the only strange, and he didn't do anything else, like, you know. And but he wanted to take me out on day trips, and I always said I would always make an excuse not to go.
As you would.
Yeah, as you would. Most of the priests that I knew were all good men and were everything that a priest should be. And I wanted to be a priest like the parish priest we had at the time, who was a really good man, you know, and a kind man, you know, and made time for everybody, you know. That's what it's all about.
So, Father, there mustn't be much priest coming through, is there?
There isn't here, but there is in other parts of the world, you know. But it's been like this before. It's happened before in history. I mean, there was a time in the 18th century in Italy when the church had almost died out. Like, churches in villages were abandoned.
Yeah.
The roofs were falling in because nobody kept them up or went to mass or anything. And then there was a great saint who was raised up at the time called St. Alphonsus. He founded, the Redemptorists down in Clonard. He founded that order. They're called Redemptorists, Congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer. And they get called Redemptorists.
Is that the monastery you're talking about? Yeah.
And he started up mission campaigns and bringing people back to the faith, preaching. He went into the town squares and preached. People all started to come back to mass and the sacraments, you know. So it's disheartening when you're looking down at a church, you know, which should be full, and it's not. You know, I think there's lots of signs of hope.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of people are just like losing their faith or not believing, or maybe do you think as the generations are just going on, less people are caring, or
a lot of people's interest and their attention spans are
Yeah.
shorter now. And
That's it. There's a whole lot of reasons
when
for
you
it,
go to
you
mass
know.
and you're sitting there, you're
I
paying
know.
attention for 45 minutes straight, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
the kids, it doesn't seem like people could really have that attention span nowadays.
That's understandable because of everything, social media and all that, like all things now, like short TikTok things and stuff, and your attention span is like a couple of seconds nearly, you know.
Whereas when you're in mass, you're listening to priests speaking and you're listening to stories and you're using your imagination sometimes to sort of listen, and that element's kind of tucking away.
And some of them are hard to listen to, you know.
That's it. So, some of them, don't get me wrong, there's some stories from, like, the stories are that I've been. Do you ever hear about the miracle of Fatima?
Oh,
The
yeah.
Fatima one, like, that's interesting to me.
I was in Fatima.
What's that?
I was there in August.
Did you go to Fatima? It's in Portugal, is it?
Yep, it's in Portugal. It's about 2 hours from Lisbon. We were in Lourdes, and then for four days, and then 4 days in Fatima. Our Lady appeared there, Gavin, in, I think it was 1917, and she appeared to 3 children, wee small children. The oldest was 11, and then there was a wee boy of 7 and a wee girl of 8. I think that was it, or the other way around. I'm not sure. The 2 young children are Saint Francisco and Saint Jacinta. Lucia was the other girl, the older girl, and she only died not that long ago, really, you know. And she lived like well into her, she was nearly 100 when she died, you know. But Our Lady appeared to them with a message to calling the world to conversion and warning the world, you know, that it was on the wrong road totally, and you know, and she predicted the war was just coming to an end, the First World War. She predicted the Second World War.
Did she?
She did. She predicted
it.
A
couple of predictions and they came true.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did. So it's a lovely place, beautiful place, a very prayerful place, very peaceful place, and Lourdes is something similar. Our Lady's message at Lourdes was also conversion, pray for the conversion of sinners to Bernadette. And just 2 weeks ago, the relics of St. Bernadette were here, down in St. Mary's in Chapel Lane, and you were talking there about numbers and thing. Bunged, thousands of people filed past 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday of the week before last, and thousands of people, and lots of young people. It was amazing, and a lot of young people were there helping and stewarding and stuff like that, and it was absolutely amazing. And St. Mary's, Chapel Lane, St. Mary's, down there in the city centre. What do you call that pub, that bar? Kelly's
Cellars.
Kelly's Cellars.
Yes, I know what you're on about now.
More seafood. St. Mary's is the church right beside there, and it's a big church, and it was packed. There was mass at 7 in the morning, 1 o'clock, and 7 in the evening. I was there hearing confessions for hours on the 2 days, jam-packed, the church, and people were coming constantly, even all during the night. Tuesday night, they kept the church open all night. It was just
be surprised, the people
that
show off for certain
there you go.
And things.
Yeah, see, that's it. I mean, I think there's a lot of faith out there. There is, and there's a lot of hope, and there's an awful lot of good people. You know, I'm here now. I was here 8 years, John, on Saturday. 28th of October was my first time I said Mass here as parish priest of Corpus Christi. And I love this place. I absolutely love it. I've loved all the parishes I've been in.
What was the first parish you started in?
Polglass.
Polglass.
I loved it.
It's just the people you love.
The people and the area. I mean, I loved Polglass. Polglass back then was just getting started. Like, it only been the estates had only been opened a couple of years, and I was sent there in 1989. But it was buzzing. But there was 3 of us, 3 priests. There was a priest called Father Paddy McWilliams, Paddy Mac is what he got called, and he was a legend. A complete legend, you know. He built that whole area. You know, the dairy farm stand? That was his initiative. He went after the government and pleading, and he badgered them until they agreed, because there was no shops up there. You relied on vans coming around, a van shop. That's the only way you could get.
The van shops, you don't get them. No.
Many years ago would that have been?
Right, that's 35 years ago.
Is it?
Since I went there. I was there from 89 to 94.
Father, what age are you? What age are you?
I'm 61.
61? You see what I love about you, Father? I have you on Facebook, and what I love is, and you don't see much other priests doing, you're out, you do your boxing, you're out training, you're out, you have like a personality outside of the church, which is good to see, because see, when I think of a lot of priests, I think of like I think of Father Danny. Can you remember Father Danny? I think of like older priests who don't really, you wouldn't see them outside the church. No. Where it's good to see
you Father Danny was a great man.
I know he was. Father Danny just lives, for anyone watching, he was our parish priest.
He died, you know.
He just lived like
down the street.
10 doors down.
Yeah, he lived just beside the wee nursery school and the chapel, the Annunciation, and Matt Talbot Nursery School, and he lived in that end house. And we got a call one morning, and they hadn't turned up for Mass at 10 o'clock. That wouldn't have been like him, you know, and we knew there was something wrong. So we got his niece, who had a key to his house, and we went in, and he was unconscious. I was just sitting in a chair, and he was all dressed for action. Like he died. That's the way I want to go. I want to die with my boots on. I want to die with my boots on. No, I don't want to retire. No way.
Father, are you scared of that?
Everybody is, I think, yeah. Our Lord was scared of dying, you know. He said, Father, let this cup pass me by, but nevertheless not my will. He sweated blood. That's a medical condition. I think it's called hemohydrosis or something like that, where your capillaries around your pores, if you're in extreme stress, and it's very rare, they burst and blood comes out of your pores. It's an actual very rare medical condition. So he sweated blood at the thoughts of dying, you know. I think we're all, it's the
It's
unknown.
only human nature.
It's only human nature. It's the unknown. You don't know. I mean, we trust and we have faith and we believe in God, and we know that death's not the end. That's what our faith tells us. Death is not the end. Only the body that dies. I said at a funeral this morning, only the body dies. Who that person is not dead. That person goes on. That person has a soul. That person has a spirit. When you look at a person lying in a coffin, that looks like the person, but there's something gone. That life is gone. Well, where does life go? It has to go somewhere. It just doesn't die, snuffed out. When you think about it, we're more than a body.
It's conscious, right?
Yeah, your body is it's like a tent that you live in. It's a temporary home.
You've got a voice in your head, but only you can hear that voice. But how can you hear that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. If I go to say a word in my head now, you just can't hear it, but I can hear it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you speak it.
To be honest,
that's your spirit.
Yeah, is it? Yes, exactly.
See, to be honest, Father, for a lad, so I'm 30 now. As the years are going on, like, I wasn't a believer for a lot of years, but now as I'm getting older, I'm starting to see a different side.
Yeah.
Now I'm hitting my 30s. Now you're starting to go, fuck, how many years have I got left? Then you start thinking. I see from your kid, I say about 25, you don't have these thoughts.
No,
it's when you start having kids, you're getting older, and you start to realise, fuck, these years are flying in here. So then your mind does start to think.
It seems like yesterday since I was 20. It seems like a blink ago, and I'm now 61, as I said there. It's a bit scary, to be honest.
Fucking right, it is.
Look, it all went so fast, and I loved it. As I said, Poleglass, Turf Lodge then was after Poleglass, and then over to the North Belfast, over to the old park near Ardoyne, as they call it, the Bone. Sacred Heart Parish, again, Turf Lodge, loved it, absolutely. I've been blessed. I've never been in a parish that I wasn't happy in, and it's to do with the people. Now, the only place I wasn't happy in was Lisburn, and that was not because of the people, but because it was Donaghy's hometown.
Yeah, we're going to touch on that. I see you posting a lot of stuff about Donaghy's his name. He's still alive, is he, Father?
Yeah, he's still alive, and it's all in the public domain. He got 10 years in jail for what he did to me and 2 other kids.
They came forward, did they?
They came forward 2009. The trial started in mid-November 2000. He was arrested in 2010 and charged. He denied everything, of course. And then 2011, November the 14th, the trial began with a judge presiding over it, obviously, and a jury. We had to give evidence because he was denying everything, I was up first, and I tell you one thing, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. It was my mummy had died 2 years previously, and this trial and being cross-examined and given evidence was far worse than the experience of losing my mother, because I had to talk about stuff that he had done that I'd never talked to anybody except a therapist about, not even my closest friends. And I had to go into the details of what he had done, as did the other lads. They had to go through the same ordeal.
And then you're having to relive it.
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah. I was physically sick. I mean, literally. I was, throwing up in the street. Like, nothing to bring up because I hadn't been eating anything, but it was awful. And with nerves. And
did this go on for
it went on for a month.
Did it
went on for a month, yeah. And there was me and 2 other victims. And then he was found guilty on the 14th of December 2011. He was remanded in custody to get sentenced in the new year. So on the 10th of February 2012, he was sentenced to 10 years in jail.
And how many did he serve?
He served 5.5.
That's a fucking joke. He should be doing life.
I agree.
He's a horrible, horrible person.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was here. He was in our parish here.
Was he?
Yep. No,
how old would he be, Father?
Oh, he's in his late 60s somewhere.
See, being obviously you're a man of God.
Yeah.
And you're meant to be a man for forgiveness. You couldn't forgive what he done.
Well,
so this is a weird question for you, because do you know what I mean? Like,
that's a very important question. That's really, an awful lot of people think, to forgive. So I do forgive him. I do. But a lot of people think, oh, you forgive him, you shouldn't be angry anymore with him. You shouldn't, want him brought to justice for the evil things that he's done to other people. You know what I mean? That's not forgiveness.
But listen, he's still alive. He could be doing it again. Who's to know?
He's monitored. He's on the sex offenders register for life.
But Father, and people are crafty people.
Oh, they are?
You just don't know. I don't never trust anyone like that.
This man threatened to kill a 14-year-old boy if he told anybody what he had done to him.
How old were you?
I was 18 when he groomed me, started grooming me. I was 20 when he pounced. When I was 20, I looked about 14.
I seen photos of you. You had the curtains and all. Is that
I was very
now, Father.
My 20s, people still thought I was in my teens, and I had the physical appearance of a young teenage boy, and the build. I was a skinny runt,
Yeah.
He was a big man compared to me, and I hadn't. And he would make sure to get you on your own, and he would use force and violence and to overpower you and to do what he wanted to you.
If you were to say no, he would use his authority.
He was like, yeah. And he would come down to our house. It happened when I was home from seminary. And when I would be on my holidays, like Christmas and Easter and summer, and he would just come down to our house and he would come in and just take over. He would even be ignorant to my father in our own house. My dad couldn't stand him. I didn't know that until many, many years later when I had to tell my mother and father what I had been dealing with. See, I was first abused at the age of 4 and 6.
Were you?
Yeah, I had already been abused as a child, as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old. And
was that by an priest?
No, nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with the church, no. The first one was a babysitter, and the second abuser was like a local guy in Rathcoole.
You can remember it?
Oh, yeah.
Are you from Rathcoole?
I grew up and started in Rathcoole, but we got put out in the early 70s. My dad was threatened if we didn't get out, they would burn us out that night. So that was the end of that. We had to get out. And we didn't. I was about 7 or 8. We didn't understand what was happening. I had a baby brother who was only a few weeks old at the time, and my dad was worried because he was only literally home from the hospital with my mother, and he was a babe in arms. Like, he was only a couple of weeks old, and my dad wasn't going to take any chances, obviously, once they said that, because it was a very, very dangerous place, Rathcoole,
surely back in them days as well.
Yeah. I mean, there was good people there too, the very good people there as well, but there was one of my memories, I was about 7 or so, my dad had us all in the room with him and my mother. It was dangerous, and he had a hatchet beside the bed, and I remember peeping out the curtains with him. It was in the middle of the night, and I can still see this vividly. All these masked men, combat uniforms, and wave Ulster flags and Union Jacks and cudgels. I can still hear their feet marching. They were wearing them hobnail boots, and they were all marching, and I can still see them and I can still hear them. And I knew my dad was...
Your dad had been like loyalists or paramilitaries?
Loyalists, UDA, UVF, whoever. Because down at the bottom of our street there was a UDA club. That's the Alpha. They used to call it the Alpha. It wasn't a cinema, but they were in it. They were using it as a kind of a den, HQ sort of thing. Yeah,
that sort of thing went on both sides, but it did,
of course. Yeah. Oh, of course it did.
I feel like, see, in terms of like abuse you would suffer as a child, I feel like in them days you would have got away. A lot of people got away with a lot more as well. Even I would watch some documentaries on Netflix about like stuff like real life true crime documentaries, and it's more or less all back in the day, same kind of story, same kind of similar stories, whereas people that have got away with, but if this had happened nowadays, they wouldn't have gotten away with it.
No way, because we're much more aware. I'll give you an example. I remember one of my memories, this guy had me behind a hedge. I was about 6, and he had me face down, and he had, he was doing what he was doing, and this woman came along, and I can still see her. She had a scarf on her, and the way women used to wear a scarf. And I was lying there, and he had pulled my trousers and trunks down, and he had me face down. And when this woman appeared, I remember looking over the hedge, and he ran away and left me lying there like that. And she shouted at me.
Why?
I was being abused on the ground by this guy who ran away when she came on the scene, and she shouted at me and called me a dirty wee gat and all this, and I didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah,
I didn't.
She's just as bad as him.
You're young at the time. You're only a kid. You don't know. You're not aware. You know what I mean?
My earliest memories are of abuse.
Seriously?
The earliest. I remember the babysitter. She would take me into the bath. It was a woman, by the way. Women abused too.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
A woman. She was a woman, and she would take me into the bathroom at night, getting me ready for bed, and she would play with me like a wee action man sort of thing, and and that's some of my earliest memories, And then this other man came along, this guy, who was doing that to me, that particular. I could take you to the very spot where it happened.
Did they ever get caught? Did they ever get done? No.
They're probably dead, to be honest with you, I'd say.
It's probably the best place for them, to be honest.
I could take you to the very spot where that happened, where that woman came.
Mate,
there's a wee lane, there's a wee alleyway in Rathcoole behind the Alpha that I was talking about, and it leads into Ballyronan Park. It was there was a hedge growing there, and it was behind a hedge. I think the hedge is gone, but I have revisited that spot for therapeutic purposes to try some of my therapy. Like you see them photographs I put up with me back in the day, has been actually to go back to that kid and comfort that kid. Because later when I was being abused by Donaghy, I tried to resist as best I could, but it was hopeless. And there's a thing called dissociation. I don't know if you've heard of dissociating.
Yeah, when something's happening to you, like traumatic, your brain, your mind dissociates to somewhere else.
And your brain doesn't stop developing until your late 20s.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop developing until your late 20s. And so I was still in very many ways like a young lad, a young adult. I was.
You were, all right.
Yeah. And I looked a lot younger even than I was. And, I hadn't the physical strength. I did try. I became like a clenched fist when he would come at me, but he would wear you down. He would exhaust you. And I would step out of the room. I remember like I was looking down on myself and I could see him and I was face down and I couldn't breathe.
An
out of the body experience. Exactly. And I could see him humping me like a piece of meat and I was suffocating and trying to breathe. And I could see my face trying to breathe and him doing what he was doing. I was like almost hovering over the scene. And the way I could only cope with it is to, when it was over, to say, that didn't happen. That did not happen. And I would say
that's Paddy when he wanted to hear. He probably
to myself, I said that.
Oh, did you? All right.
Oh, yeah, to me. I said to Paddy, that did not happen there. You'll be destroyed if you let your mind go there. And I would have been then. And the only way I went on for 3 years. And it stopped eventually because he lost interest and he went on to somebody else, I got free of his grip. It was actually a very good friend of mine. I had said to him, I was in Maynooth at the time studying for the priesthood. My best friend, he's still my best friend, was with me one day and this Donaghy rang to say he was coming down to Maynooth. Not can I come down or whatever. I'm coming down. And it was like, he just did what he wanted. He just thought he could do what he wanted.
And
what is his name? Donaghy? What? Jim Donaghy. We'll put a picture up of him to let everyone get a wee look at him.
If you Google him, you'll get him,
Yeah, I can understand like the hurt you must feel too because you're trying to do good into the world and do nothing but good, and then like your kindness and your niceness is being sort of taken for granted and taken for like a weakness. People like that prey on the weak, you know what I mean?
Well, I was a very good kid, and trusting as many kids are, and I just couldn't believe it was happening to me. I just could not believe this. But anyway, how it stopped was I said to my friend that he's coming, that this priest. I didn't say why, but I said, I don't like him and I'm afraid of him. And my friend, we arranged that he would come on the scene at a given time. We had it all set up, just as if he came up by chance. And I was at the gates of Maynooth College. My friend was watching from a distance and he saw me with your man. And he came over as if, and I said, oh, this is my friend. And Donaghy went to shake his hand and my friend wouldn't shake his hand. He just eyeballed him and he got very jittery and jumpy and he made an excuse and he just left. He said, I have to be back in Belfast for something I've forgotten about, and he just left. And I never had ever any other trouble after that.
He never came near me. Getting caught, didn't he?
He went on to abuse others,
Like the help of your friend that day, you know what I mean?
I escaped.
Yeah.
I escaped. And he never bothered me again and I never had any more dealings with him, He abused a 7-year-old boy as well. He pleaded guilty to that after he was found guilty.
He served 5 years for it?
He served 5.5 years and he was given a 2-year sentence to run concurrently with the 10 years that he was supposed to be serving. So you may say that he didn't even serve anything for that child.
Like the justice system's a bit up the left, to be honest, because there's people that commit these type of crimes, like sexual crimes, that seem to don't ever do any real jail time, and you often make it caught with a bit of marijuana or something, and do 3 years or something. It's not right. I don't agree with it. Like,
you read it all the time. Some pervert has been caught and they get a suspended sentence or something.
These people shouldn't be allowed in the public. They shouldn't be.
They're dangerous people, and they destroy lives. I mean, I'm lucky and not lucky. I'm blessed, or don't like the word lucky. I almost didn't survive. I could have been totally destroyed.
Do you mean suicidal? Do you mean?
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure it'd be hard feeling like that, especially being a priest, because that's going against all your beliefs.
Because I'm supposed to give people hope, but he left me alone and never bothered me again, but it had gone on for 3 years and the damage was done. And I was the walking wounded, and it was getting worse and worse and worse as the years went on. I was suffering from depression and anxiety. I was having panic attacks. I was having nightmares. I was cutting myself. I couldn't eat properly. I couldn't sleep properly. It was horrendous. And then you're dealing as a priest with other really, difficult situations and awful things,
Trying to help other people get through stuff when really you're not even really coping with the same thing.
I remember, visiting somebody in a psychiatric hospital one time, and the person had an eating disorder, and I had an eating disorder as well. I felt like saying to the nurse, have you another bed? I felt I felt, you should be in hospital. It was horrible. It was awful. I don't know how I got through it.
How are you now, Father?
I have still my struggles. I mean, in the last 2.5 years, you see, I'd blocked it all out. The horror of it. That's the only way I could cope. But about 2.5 years ago, I think I was finally strong enough to face, this is what he did to you. I couldn't even use the word rape. Now I can. That's what it was. Yeah. It was rape.
It takes a lot for someone as well. It takes a lot of strength,
especially men, especially males.
100%.
But see you doing that and coming out and admitting that and letting people know, it will help other people come forward.
It has, lads. It has.
It
has. I mean, again,
you're breaking the cycle, because the abuse sort of goes into cycles. And then it gets repeated and repeated.
It does.
Whereas you're taking another step to break the cycle and show people and what actually is going on and trying to do something about it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You're spot on, and it is breaking the cycle. And it's an awful thing to say. I wish it had never happened to me. It shouldn't have happened to me. But the fact that it did happen to me, and God brought good out of it, because the amount of people over the years that I have given help and courage to break theirs, it's about breaking the silence, breaking your silence. And even if you just tell your best friend or your wife or your husband or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or if you just break that silence, that's a massive step, and it's the big first step towards healing. My best friend that I was talking about there, he was the first person that I told about being abused as a child and then as a young adult. That was the beginning of me, breaking the silence, and as I got stronger and stronger and stronger. But I took a nervous breakdown in 2003, and the doctor put me off 3 months sick leave, and I had to go and get help and therapy and everything like that. The diocese here allowed me to go to America, and they had to pay for it. Obviously, of course they had to pay for it, because it was caused by their system, and a priest in their system, so they owed it to me, because I could never have afforded anything like that. But that did help enormously.
Can I ask a wee quick question?
Yeah.
See, in the priesthood, do you get paid to be a priest?
Yeah, we
get a salary, or
you get a monthly stipend. It's called. Mine is about 1,650 a month.
Is that what you get?
That's all right.
But you have to live.
It's not all right.
Well, it's not.
No, it isn't. It's not in the days age.
No, but I can get by on it.
You get your bread and milk out of your father, and
you have
that's
to pay
about
your
it.
car out of it. My car is about £330 a month, because I'll never own that car. That belongs to Charles Hurst. I just rent it off them once and then they change it every 3 years for you. You don't have to worry about MOTs or anything like that.
Is this like a priest thing?
No.
It's
for everybody,
I have to say, you're the coolest looking priest I've seen. Like rocking in with a wee cap on the North Face, the jeans. Like, I have to say, I don't see much priest now.
I like the labels.
You've got the style, you know what I mean?
You have to feed yourself out of that, pay your mobile out of that and stuff. But I manage okay. It's not a fortune. It's almost the minimum wage, I think, when you add it all up for 12 months. But it's okay. People used to think priests have money. And some priests do, because they come from wealthy backgrounds. Yeah. But I came from a working class family. My dad worked in a meat factory in it used to be down in White Abbey. It was a slaughterhouse, really. And, they kill the animals. And my dad used to drop the big heavy sides of beef. And that was his job. He sort of butchered as well, And my mother was a cleaner. Schools and like the University of Ulster in Jordanstown. She cleaned at night in there to make the few extra bob. We never had much.
So, Father, you're not really saying it to anyone looking to be a priest here, like?
Well, do you know what? I wouldn't swap it for the world. I highly recommend it. I love being a priest.
You have to give a lot. You have to give your whole life up. Like you do. You're giving up a wife. You're giving up kids. It's a lot of things. And fair play to you, because there's not many of us out there. And without the priest, there's no chapel.
Yeah, that's right.
I think a lot more people would be priests if you're allowed to have kids and a wife.
Protestant priests can't they? Or is that they?
They can, but they're still not getting ministers. There's still shortage. Yeah, and there's been shortages of priests before in history. So I wouldn't. God will take care of it.
Yeah.
God will take care of it in his own way, and we have to go on with hope and do the best we can. You know, we're thinner on the ground than we were, definitely, and we are feeling that a wee bit because the workload doesn't get any less. The same amount of people die.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
And then Christians,
for example, I'm the only
communions.
priest here now. There used to be 3 priests in Corpus Christi, you know, and there's only me now, and there's still the same amount of baptisms, the same amount of, well, that maybe the same amount of weddings, no.
How many baptisms do you reckon you've done in your whole span? Like
thousands and thousands.
And christenings and stuff.
So you christened my lad?
Yeah, so
You
it did.
do,
So it did. We do baptisms about the 2nd and 4th Sunday of every month. And there's usually 5 or 6 babies to be baptized, usually, you know. But over the years, like when I started off in Polglass, I was baptizing maybe 13, 14 kids on a Sunday, you know. That would, who knows, I could add all that up. Need to go back through all the registers, you know.
I'd be scared of dropping one of your babies or something. You're trying to
Oh no,
their head.
the daddy holds
Well,
them, or the
yeah,
mummy,
yeah,
mummy or daddy holds them. But you're right, because you know they
It's
do
very
ask
careful,
you,
like-
Father, would you like to hold the child and get your photo? And you wouldn't like to say no, but you're
No.
nervous because they're delicate wee things, babies, you know, and you know you do. But I'm sort of getting the hang of it a bit more, you know.
Father, a silly question here, but see the wine you drink? Is
Yeah.
that real wine?
Oh, it is, yeah.
Like alcohol in
Oh,
it?
absolutely. It's about 16%. It's like a sherry, but you only drink a wee mouthful, you know. It's not.
Well, depends. There might be a few alcohol priests out there.
No, at mass.
Like,
Well, there are.
Priest allowed to drink alcohol? You allowed to have a
Of
beer?
course,
You allowed to have a
yeah,
pint and all that?
Oh yeah,
I was
absolutely.
watching a film. I know it's only a film, like, but I was watching it. It was a scary film. It's only out there. The priest in it was an alcoholic. And
Yeah.
he was drinking them all the wine and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
church sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's where it came from.
But this wine, it's not great wine. You wouldn't want it. You wouldn't want to drink it.
Is it holy wine? Like, is it?
No, it is after at mass. Once it's consecrated, it's the precious blood of Jesus, you know. And when you're drinking it, you're not thinking about wine. It's not wine anymore. It tastes like wine. It smells like wine, but it's no longer. Our faith tells us this now: the precious blood, and the host is the body of Christ. Jesus is really present, and so you're concentrating. You're not thinking this is wine. You're thinking about Him. You're receiving Him into your heart, into your soul. You know, but it's wine. It's made from grapes. It's fermented, and it's about maybe 16% volume.
Have you ever
alcohol.
felt a wee bit tipsy or anything? Like,
At mass, no. You only drink in a mouthful.
At what point going through school did you go, right, everyone else is going, doing whatever they're doing, I want to be a priest? Well, how did
Probably in P4.
P4 that early on, you knew?
Yeah, I knew. I was fascinated with Mass and what the priest was doing on the altar. And my dad used to have to lift me up on his shoulders so I could see everything. Because I was only small, obviously. And all the people, like, you couldn't see over their heads in the church when they were all standing and stuff like that. So my dad would lift me up so I could see what was happening. And it was a beautiful church as well. It was down in White House, down the Shore Road. You can see it from the motorway if you're heading down towards Carrickfergus. It has a big spire. And my mummy and daddy were both buried out of that church, you know.
Sorry, your dad just
He
recently
just
passed,
died in
didn't he?
February there, just in February, yeah.
Sorry to
Yeah,
hear,
I
Father.
know.
Tell us this, so you wouldn't do your own family members' funerals? Is
Oh
that
yeah,
anything
I
you
did my
you?
mummy's funeral.
Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
is that an honour to do that? Like,
Oh
or-
yeah. Sure, you wouldn't want anybody else to do it, you
100%,
know.
I suppose that,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah,
But
but
I really thought about that.
Neither did I.
honestly, like,
and I was, you know, I
That's
was
mad.
more agitated about my daddy's funeral than my mother's. To be honest, my mother's dead now 15 years, and my daddy had been dying since this time last year. Around this time, the 10th of November, they put the driver in. Morphine, ingrown tumour in his head, you know, and his pain was very difficult to manage, and they put the driver in about the 10th of November last year, and he didn't die until the 22nd of February. It was horrendous, you know.
Because you just see him sort of this suffering, really.
It was awful and very, very draining because we didn't know how long it was going to go on, you know. And finally then he went unconscious on a Wednesday, and then he died the following Thursday, just about a week and a day later. And I was actually about to do a funeral down in Corpus Christi when my sister rang me to say the daddy's gone. And the funeral, that was at 12:20. I had a funeral at 12:30. I had to just literally push that out. You can't go there at the minute. You have to focus on this funeral.
Did
and
you
these
have
people.
to do it? Did
Yeah,
you?
I did.
Fair play to you.
I
That's
did
that fair
And
play.
I
to you.
did
That's-
it.
I'm sure that's harsh because
Oh, it was,
there's
yeah.
no. It's not like you can ring in sick.
No,
It's not
no,
like
no.
I'm in work. I can go here and then get someone else to cover. It's not like there's another
No,
priest just
There's
waiting.
not, no. And I did it, and I was
Fair play to
okay.
you, mate.
Well, I wasn't okay, but I did it. And Sister Kathleen, we have a sister in the parish who helps me, and she's brilliant. And she did the prayers at the grave then for me, so I could go straight over. My dad was still warm. God love him when I got there, you know. But it was the end. It was a blessed release for him. It really was, you know.
And how are you now, Father?
Well, you know, a lot better. As I said, 2.5 years ago, all exploded in my head about what I'd been through, and the full reality of it hit me. But I think because I was now strong enough to deal with it.
I feel like you're one of the most mentally strong people I've spoken to in my life, to be honest with you, for all the stuff that you've been through so far. Like,
yeah,
it takes a lot. Like,
I don't always feel mentally strong.
I'm sure you don't, but for us on the outside looking in,
but I think it's very important. I'm very open about my mental health, and I think it's very important in our community. For men, for everybody, but
especially men have that thing that we're not allowed to open up, that we can't speak, and it's you're sort of like, it's not manly to speak up about these things. And I felt like that too. I've like we all have.
That's why I chose, to actually be very open and to talk about it in social media and stuff like that, to give others permission to talk and to be open themselves, and to remove the stigma, because there is a stigma about your mental health, and there's too many people who just, God love them, they lose. Because as I was mentioning earlier, I did suffer from suicidal ideation and stuff like that over the years, and there's days I've said, just go and jump off the Cave Hill or crash your car at speed into a tree or something, because this is too painful for you to cope with. And I wanted it to be over. I wanted the pain to be over more than anything else, and it wasn't going away. It was getting worse and worse and worse. And as I said, I was dealing with tragic situations of suicide and things like that. And like, I remember getting called one time to a lad, and he had took his own life, and he'd cut himself. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that could be you. Because I was cutting myself at that time,
That's a bad crack.
And because I know why I was doing it now, it was to externalize the pain you were feeling inside. You wanted something to, like, that cut was something you could look at and actually say, well, that's causing pain there. So, whereas the other stuff was all in here, and
by cutting your wrist, it was taking pain away from your from your head.
Exactly.
Really?
It's sort of like releasing a pressure valve or something. That's what it felt like, And
I feel like from you coming on the day and sort of speaking to us too, a lot of people's narratives will change on like how they look at priests, especially for myself, because I didn't go to your parish. So today's my first time meeting you, but just the way I sort of had not a stereotype, but kind of like a stereotype in my head of priests. You've definitely changed my outlook on them as well, and very mentally strong. It takes a lot to come out and speak about stuff like this as well, and just appreciate you coming and letting the people know your story.
Delighted to be here with you, and following the footsteps of the legend Joni.
Yeah. Joan, did you watch her podcast? I love Joni.
Yeah. She is a great woman. She is a legend. I love her too, and she's
not bit behind the door. She just says it.
She just says it and she sees it.
I know, that's what I love about her. She gets away with it too. So she does.
Of course, Joni get away with anything.
Joni's it's just some amount of followers on TikTok.
Yeah.
Are you on TikTok, Father?
Not TikTok, but I'm on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. I don't really use Instagram very much. You're
very popular on Facebook too, so you are.
They must get you on Facebook.
Yeah,
it's good to hear you're out doing a bit of boxing and doing a bit of training. I've never seen any priest do that too. You know what I mean? You're sort of changing the narrative, like.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my dad had me boxing. I wish I had kept it up, but I think it was part of being traumatized as a child that I had no confidence.
Yeah.
And I was afraid all the time. I was a very nervous kid, And I remember fighting one time. This up in Ligoniel, there used to be I'm not sure if there still is a boxing club in Ligoniel, and I was fighting, and all I could hear was...
Have you had a fight? Have you fought now, have you?
Yeah, and all the screaming, and everybody was screaming, and I was panicking as a kid, but I wish I boxed in other ways, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and roll with the punches.
Then about 2021, I had to do something about my health because I was massively overweight. John, do you remember?
Yeah, I can remember. Yeah. You've lost.
I've lost about 9 stone.
9? Yeah. You do look brilliant. Like, were you depressed?
No, it was an antidepressant that I was put on. It wasn't even that. It was an antipsychotic drug. And after Donaghy was put in jail, I plummeted into like a very dark place. I thought, you've got justice, you'll be good, you'll be fine. But it wasn't. It floored me. And I was put on this drug, and part of the side effects is weight gain because it slows your metabolism away down.
Yeah.
And I've been told subsequently you should never have been on that in the first place. You didn't need that. You weren't psychotic. You were just depressed. And I had been on antidepressants since my 20s anyway because of what Donaghy had done to me, But I was fit, active, even on antidepressants. Then I was very, very fit and, running and walking and all that stuff, And so, as I said, 2021, I had to go to the doctors, and my blood pressure was so high they were going to send me to the Royal. And it came down a wee bit, and it says, right, you're immediately going on this medication. And I had to go to the chemist down in the Springfield Road, McGettigan's chemist, because my doctor's down there.
So is mine.
Springfield Road surgery.
Cummins? No, I'm at the...
There's two, you see, there's two. Anyway, I was going into the chemist, and I was get the prescription, and I saw a reflection of myself in the glass, and I said, that's not you. How did you end up like this? That's definitely, you were never like this. I was always very thin and fit. I said, you're going to have to do something about this.
What were you at your heaviest?
I think it was about 18 stone or something.
Was that the moment that when you seen yourself, it was the trigger point?
And it was as if a wee whisper in my ear said, you're going to change this, and you're starting today and not tomorrow. And you're going to do this. You're going to do this, and I did. I had a treadmill in my bedroom that was a clothes horse, and
gathering dust.
And I said, you're getting on that treadmill today, and I could hardly walk because I was down with pains in my knee, and I could hardly walk. I mean, there was days I couldn't say mass standing up. I had to sit down to say mass. John, do you remember that?
Yeah, he's a lot of people now as well. The way you were speaking about like antidepressants and stuff. I know a lot of people that have been sort of taking them for years. And now they've sort of dabbled into mushrooms, mushroom extracts, like microdosing.
I've heard of that.
Right. Okay.
And it would have like say like lansmane. It's like an extract from a type of mushroom, but it helps people deal with like depression and anxiety, and it's supposed to be like another alternative, but a cleaner and better alternative without the bad side effects that sort of antidepressants would give you.
Okay.
It grows from the ground.
Yeah, it grows from the earth, natural.
Must look that up.
Definitely. If I get you on the Facebook, I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
You'll not be doing mass on Sunday and everything will be
no, it's not psychoactive. It's not psychoactive. It's not psychedelic. It's literally just for
microdosing. It is a thing.
Right. But a few people close to me as well have started to do it, and I've actually noticed personally the difference in their personality and how they've acted, and they seem a lot happier.
Sounds really worth looking at.
I swear to God, I would definitely recommend it. Just even to try. You never know.
In the last maybe 6 months, I've had to go back on anti-anxiety and antidepressant medication. You know. Yeah. And now they're not. I don't even know if they're making any difference. I mean, I'm okay at the minute. I'm grand. I mean, I've had a few.
You seem in good spirits.
Yeah.
Do you sleep well, Father?
I am back to sleeping again, but about a few weeks ago there was 5 nights that I never slept in a row.
Jesus Christ!
It was awful. And see, when you feel like you're going mad.
You would really go mad.
I suffer from complex post-traumatic stress disorder, diagnosed with that just after Donaghy's trial. The doctor was appointed by the police for the victim impact report that they do in the court when he was being sentenced, and I ticked every box for PTSD, you know.
Fuck, of course you would after that. Father, say I seen this fella and I'm not saying I'm going to, but say I heard him. What way would you feel like that? What way would you feel about that?
I wouldn't want you to. I really wouldn't. No, I wouldn't want you to. See, I should go back to what I said there earlier about forgiveness. I do forgive him. I don't wish him any harm. That's what forgiveness means. You don't wish...
Are you saying this because you have to say it? No, you genuinely believe it?
Now, do I like him?
Of course not.
Am I angry with him? I don't like him, and I am angry with him. He was horrible. He was awful, dangerous, violent, sadistic, pervert.
100%, yeah, 100%.
That's the truth about him. That's the truth about him.
People deserve to know.
But do I want him killed or lynched or whatever? No, I don't think.
Karma gets people in the end, doesn't it?
Well, he'll stand before God, and if he doesn't repent, that's not going to be good.
How are these things, like, see a priest, like, if he can devote his whole life to God, how can he do like one of the biggest sins you could ever do? How can you go from such a high end of the scale, believing that, like, worshipping God, and then going and doing something so bad?
I think that's psychotic. To be honest with you, that's a bit psychotic. Like,
he raped me the night before he was ordained.
What's that mean?
When he was ordained a priest.
Was that mean given like his priest?
When the bishop put his hands on his head, the night before that, he had raped me in a flat in Lisburn where he got me on my own, and he deliberately planned it because I was there. I was doing the music. I was playing the music for his ordination with a choir. A lot of the seminarians were up from down south and all going to his ordination, and they were staying with different families for the night or a couple of nights, whatever it was. And I presumed that I would be doing the same, but no, I says to him it was getting late, probably about 10:30 at night, and I says to him, "Where am I staying?" "Oh, you're staying with me," he said, and I knew what it wasn't going to be good. And by God, it was awful. And he took me to this flat. And I didn't like Lisburn. I didn't know Lisburn. My dad didn't drive. Like anywhere I went was on a bus or walking, you know. He took me to this flat, and a night of terror is the only way I can describe it, you know. And then the next day I was looking down from the choir loft, and there he was. The priest at his ordination lies prostrate on the ground, as a sign of him giving himself totally to God. And all I could think of was what he had done the night before.
He's basically the devil, isn't he? Like,
yeah, he was a monster. He really
horrible
was.
bastard. That's
Oh,
what he was like.
He was a monster, but
I feel like the stuff like as what you're saying, like people in the church, it sort of puts people off going to mass and like being faithful to God.
It has done
people
awful
in them
damage.
roads
Yes,
doing stuff like that.
it has caused immense harm to the church.
There's a lot of going on back in. There's a lot of priests have done that, haven't like in the Catholic? Or
No, it's a small percentage. Believe it or not,
is that right?
But it doesn't matter that it's a small percentage. That small percentage has caused colossal harm.
Yeah, 100%.
For the big percentage.
Yeah, and the majority of priests wouldn't hurt anybody and are doing what they should do, and they're being faithful to God. But this small number were poison, and they poisoned everything for everybody. You know, like. I just couldn't get my head around the fact that he was just being ordained a priest, and the night before, what he had done to me by force.
That's way. It's way.
You know, somebody told me a girl was in the choir. She was only a young girl at the time, but I know her now today, and you know, she told me, you know, the day of his ordination ceremony, you were fine the day before. You were dead on at the rehearsal, but when you come into the choir loft that next day. Afternoon it was 3:00. The ceremony started at 3:00. You did not look well. You were an awful pale colour.
She obviously didn't know.
No, she didn't know. But
why did you never go and speak to like an adult or?
You were afraid.
Were you?
And too ashamed.
Yeah,
shame and fear.
Yeah.
Kind of in your own head a bit too much, maybe as well, because it's been going on in your mind. You don't. You're scared to speak.
And another question people ask me: how did you go on to be a priest after what he did to you? The answer to that is very simple. I knew God. I knew him from I was a very young child. And I also knew good priests since I was a young child. So it's as simple as that. I felt called by God to be a priest since I was very young. And he could have destroyed that. He could have absolutely. You know, like I got kicked out of seminary in my 4th year because I knew what he was doing to me wasn't right and wasn't normal. And I was trying to, what would you say? I started going to discos, friends in White Abbey when I was home. And I started courting girls and things like that.
Have you ever had a girlfriend, Father?
No, I never had a girlfriend, no. But I was courting girls and to try and be normal. And we weren't allowed to do that. Like you're preparing for a life of celibacy. We weren't supposed to do anything like that. But I was doing it to try and normalize my life and feel normal. You know, it was just horrible what he was doing, and it made me sick, so sick what he was doing. You know, but I got reported for going out with girls and all and drinking. And it was innocent enough now, I can assure you, and it wasn't much. It was maybe a pint.
And you're still young.
I know.
Yeah, I'm sure I was only a young lad.
You still have these lessons to learn as you're going to get older. You know.
Yeah.
What I mean?
This is the thing. People do think, and I think of it as like a stereotype. A priest should just have no life, but they shouldn't. They should have. They should have like as like you do.
Yeah.
But people do think, that once they are at a mass, they just have to go and sit in the house and wait on their next.
And pray all day.
Yeah, you are.
Oh no, you have loads of things to do apart from mass and prayer. That's very important. That's the center of your life. But you have lots of other things to do as well. You have the sick to look after. You have people grieving to look after, and a whole load of stuff. You know.
Sure, it's hard. Have you ever had to give anybody like their last rites?
Oh, lots and lots of times. Yeah,
that must be horrible.
Yeah, and I remember they kicked me out for a year, and they told me I was immature and that all this, but I was far more. It was the bishop at the time. Go and prove to me that you're a man. And I was more of a man then than he ever was in his whole life, Okay, I got a job and was stocking shelves and Marks and Spencers and whatever. And then they took me back then after the year and I was allowed to continue. But it's just as easily, but not allowed to continue. and that would have been my life ruined.
I wonder who reported you.
I think I know who reported.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank God you did. You did get back into it, and because you're very respected man about here, so everyone looks up to you in this community.
I love the people here. I've loved everywhere I've been. You know, even like Lisburn wasn't the people that were the problem. It was the location. It was being triggered constantly. Being there, it's his hometown.
That bastard.
Yeah. I only lasted 4 months, and then I took a nervous breakdown, you know, and the doctor put me off sick, as I told you earlier there, you know, but it was, I couldn't believe that I was been sent to Lisburn, because I had reported by this stage, because I was worried about another young lad, and I had reported it, but it was just ignored, and the bishop that we had at the time, he sent me there, I believe, deliberately. He knew, because I was speaking out against child abuse, and they didn't like it.
Yeah.
They did not like it one bit, and I think he sent me there to try and, you know.
So you would struggle.
Yeah,
to put you in that
Father,
but it backfired spectacularly on me.
Father, think of the many people you've saved by speaking out, because he would have continued.
He would have. Of course, he would have. Yeah.
These people don't. That wouldn't be enough for him.
No, it wouldn't.
These people are predators, and
they are. I firmly believe there's other victims of his.
100%.
I
believe that too.
Definitely, because the therapist I worked with in America said, he was brilliant. He said, where there's one, there's two. And where there's two, there's more, you know. And with him, there is more. I'm certain of it. Yeah.
Well, Father, we're just touching the arm, aren't we? Usually wrap up about now. So,
how many people that you have inspired and
it's
my
privilege
as well.
It's my privilege,
because you have even me who's only met you today. I'm sort of looking at you as a bit of an inspiration now, and I wouldn't have really looked at much priests like that, but you've definitely changed my perspective, and I appreciate you.
Well, we believe that God can bring good out of evil. Even evil is real, but God can bring good out of it. And I believe that the evil that happened to me, God used it eventually for a good purpose, to help other people, and literally has saved lives.
That's a good way of looking at it, Father.
Really.
Can I just say, if anyone hearing any bangs, it wasn't no one was getting shads. We're recording.
It's Halloween.
It's Halloween night, and the kids are just starting to trick or treat here, and the fireworks are going off in case anyone's thinking that there's someone getting kneecapped outside.
I know.
But Father, thank you for coming up.
Thanks,
I really appreciate that.
Yes, come back to Mass. I love you all, and I'm privileged to be the parish priest in Corpus Christi and Ballymurphy and this whole area, New Barnsley, Moyard, Spring Hill, everywhere, West Rock. I love this place, and I've loved all the parishes I've been in. So sending my love to Poleglass, Nativity, Holy Trinity, Turf Lodge, Sacred Heart in the Old Park, Lisburn. People, to the people.
And the podcast.
And the podcast, yes. And Crossgar, Tyrconnell and Killilay, and all the places that I've been blessed to be in, and you have done me so. I don't think I would have got through without the people. Priests sometimes weren't very nice to me. That's their problem. I have a lot of support as well among priests, but the people were always the mainstay for me.
Well, we love you too.
Part of the people.
John,
can I ask just before we do wrap up, where did you get your cap, Father? I think that's a cracker. Actually wrap one of them.
My friends in America, Susan and Wayne, they live in San Diego, and they sent me this.
It's a cracker cap. Yeah. Like I was sort of, I was
San Diego Padres.
It's Padres. I was thinking
2024
or something.
Catholic night. Padres. That's the name of the football team, I think, or baseball team in San Diego. The San Diego Padres, which means fathers. You know.
Yeah, it's a cracking
cap. Because the whole south coast of America was evangelized by priests from Spain mostly, and they were. Padre is what you call a priest father in Spanish, you know. So the team is named after them. And my friends sent me this cap, and maybe would say a prayer for Wayne, who is having some health issues at the minute. Yeah. So say a wee prayer for Wayne, everybody. Yeah. And another wee friend of mine down south, he's a wee boy, he's only 8, and his name is Finn, and he's in danger of losing his eyesight. And pray for him and his mommy and daddy and his family. They're very worried about him.
Prayers with the Finn and the family.
And so hope I haven't forgotten anybody, but you all know.
You'll remember when you leave, Father. It's always the way.
I know, always the way.
Thank you for coming.